What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of V2 Sports. As you can see by the title, we are back with another episode of Roundin Bases. And if you don't know by now, I don't speak during baseball because personally, I hate the sport. So I'm going to go ahead and let our two biggest baseball contributors, Will and Jackson, take it away. Y'all have fun, boys.
All right, let's get into the first game of the weekend. Let's go into Georgia versus Auburn. Auburn beat Georgia 2-1 in the series. Georgia's looking astronomically horrible lately. Auburn's been an injured squad, only having about 8 injuries all over the mound, all over the rotation.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, like they did get three of those guys back, and Georgia outscored them in the series. They won the series by run differential.
Oh yeah, I forgot you guys beat. Georgia beat Auburn 24-7 one game, which was the determining factor for one game. But Georgia's pitching really couldn't stay with the Auburn hitting staff, from what I see.
The bullpen. It was the bullpen. I mean, Jaden Woods pitched really good in the first game, and then an error at short allowed Auburn to score. It was either 2 or 3 runs in the ninth inning, on Thursday, and then on Friday, Georgia just kind of got manhandled.
Yeah, it was just it was a horrible showing from Georgia, and it looks like Georgia's really one of the worst teams from the first 2 weeks we've seen so far. Now let's get into another game. I know it's a 2-1 series. Wait, no, I know it's a 3-0 series, but it was a really close games in the series. Like A&M gave up a fight to Tennessee, but ultimately lost. Aggies fought long and hard the entire series. They kept it close. They could have won. They could have finished. But the bullpen issues, we've gone over this in preseason. That is what's holding them back. The bullpen. They're 1-5 to start off SEC play, just like Georgia is, and it's just embarrassing from what your standpoint is. Aggies on the same level as some of the worser teams like Mississippi State, like Georgia, like I can't even say other teams like Ole Miss. Yeah, and it's really shocking to see. And if they can fix those bullpen problems, we could see maybe a breakout from A&M, but I don't see it right now. They look horrible.
I would argue that Texas A&M looks worse than Georgia does right now, just because Georgia beat Auburn 24-7.
Yeah. The thing is, what a response by Tennessee, though. Keep in mind, they got swept by Missouri at Missouri last weekend. This weekend, they come in at home to the Aggies, a really hot team last year. We saw them go pretty far. And you see what they done, and you expect them to have a good year. You don't – it's early in SEC play, so you don't expect much. And Tennessee just finishes. Their pitching kind of struggled, not really, but you could see the errors and their flaws and why they lost to Missouri because Missouri took advantage of those. But every mistake, it didn't seem like the Aggies could take advantage. The bullpen just caused their problems and just screwed them over every game.
I mean, the Aggies have been very inconsistent all year, and they lost most of their bullpen from their Omaha run, and that's really why they're struggling right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I know I'm not going in direct order, but let's go over the Arkansas and LSU series. Arkansas kept it really close for the most part, and holy, in the 6th through 8th innings, LSU just murdered, man. Like, I don't know. Once LSU was with the starters in all 3 games, it was a really closer game, even in the doubleheader. And just later, when they got to the bullpen, when Arkansas's bullpen came out in every single game, it just felt like the game was over instantly. And thank God for Arkansas's remarkable 9th inning in the first game. I mean, they scored almost 10 runs. They had a grand.
They scored 9, right?
Yeah, they scored 9 runs and upset LSU. A lot of people thought they could have won the series, but their bullpen depth is what ultimately killed them this entire game.
I mean, Arkansas's closer is pretty good, but the rest, especially their lefties are terrible.
The issue is they use their closer for 60 pitches in the first game. You can't, if you want to win big games like LSU, you can't do that. He's your best reliever. He as you said,
they need to split those 60 pitches up between 2 games, but
exactly. You run 30 maybe Friday, 30 Sunday.
Yep.
Give them a day
and then you win that series.
Yeah. But they didn't have the bullpen. They couldn't finish. Just like another team I'm going to bring up, it's another sweep. South Carolina over Missouri. The the bullpen could not stay in the game in this for this Missouri team. It seemed like both games in the bottom of the ninth and the bottom of the 12th, South Carolina just hit after hit after hit, and it was. You could say South Carolina is a really impressive squad. I think they are, but it just seems like the bullpen for Missouri really is what caused them this game. We saw
Well,
that they had pitching injuries.
well, Jackson, we called it in the preseason that Missouri's bullpen was really going to, and pitching staff in general was going to cost them this season. Their lineup's pretty good, and they showed that against a very good South Carolina pitching staff. But man, even their starters, you were talking about their bullpen, but even Missouri's starters kind of struggled. They threw a lot of pitches to get 3 outs.
Hey, yeah, I know. So did South Carolina's elite, really pitching staff. Besides,
Well, I mean,
besides
elite pitch.
Sanders.
I mean, Missouri has a very good lineup. It's top 5 in the SEC.
From top to bottom, it is one of the best like pure hitting lineups in the SEC. And
there's no easy outs, but there's also no like given runs in that lineup, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the pitching, as we said, is what's really holding them back. And about South Carolina, what an impressive start, 6-0 in SEC play. You're starting off really strong. You play Mississippi State next week, and there's probably a 9-0 start. The only issue with South Carolina in this game was Will Sanders, man. It looks
Will
like
Sanders is terrible.
Let me tell you something. If South Carolina figures out the Will Sanders problem, they might be the best team in the country, them or LSU.
He shouldn't even be the midweek starter.
He is the only issue.
He should be a long relief guy.
Noah Hall, probably one of the best players of this week. Ethan Petrie, as a pure hitter, second best hitter in the SEC behind Dylan Cruz. He's really what carried South Carolina in this victory. Now let's go into Vanderbilt at Mississippi State, and oh my God. Dude.
What do you even say?
Enrique
Bradfield dropped his nuts on Mississippi State.
So did everybody in this lineup from start to bottom, and it looks like Parker Nolan is him or Skynes are the best pitchers in the SEC. I'd argue.
So
okay,
it's Sky.
I could actually explain a little bit of this, and one, it's the fact that State basically this whole series gave up. Like it really said it in game 1, or no, I'm sorry, It actually might have been game 2.
Luke,
but
I hate to break this to you. They gave up in the 3rd game against Kentucky of the last series.
I wouldn't say that because they still had a little bit to go off of. Just from because one,
the entire season.
Kentucky isn't terrible, and also they still had a little bit of.
They're 5-1 in SEC play. What do you mean they're pretty bad?
That's gonna come down.
Have a good.
They're not bad. I mean, I never said they were good, but you're not giving them enough credit.
They're like Missouri, except with the relievers. A little bit of relievers.
But point is, like, what's interesting is not only the run rule in game 1, but it's the fact that the later innings are where State just absolutely fails. Because outside of their starting pitcher, which even then, depending on the game, still might not work out, they just have nobody else in the bullpen. Outside
Mississippi
of their
State has
three.
good Friday and Saturdays.
And outside of that, though, nothing. Like, going to the season, I saw that they had a guy who, as an ambidextrous pitcher, could throw 90 in both arms, and I was like, oh my gosh, is State back? No. I mean, dear Lord. I mean, their offense isn't even awful. Like, it's nothing good, but, like, they still have some good players. Like, I think his name's Amani Larry. Ledbetter is good. Hunter Hines is pretty solid, and their freshman Chance is good. Point is, like, they have a decent lineup in terms of hitting. I mean, half their batters are averaging over 300 in the lineup. It's just their pitching is so abysmal that they can't stay in the game.
Yeah.
They're post-national championship LSU from football. That's the comparison.
Basically, relievers in the SEC, and I'm talking Missouri.
I will say they are injured, though.
And yeah, I know they're injured. Them, A&M, Missouri, Ole Miss, all of them have garbage relievers.
So does Georgia.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Now, let's get into another series. I know we didn't talk about that much because the Vanderbilt absolutely demolished them. But it's another sweep before we get into probably the best series of this week. Let's go into Gators and Ole Miss. That's not a good series. It was a good series.
It was a
Ole
good
Miss-
series. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. It was like how the Missouri, South Carolina, and Aggies Bowl series was. How they like fought, but the relievers just didn't fight hard enough for Ole Miss. If you know what I'm saying. Like
I'll say this.
Ole
It
Miss
was a-
had the power hitting up and down lineup. They were dominating, but they couldn't stop Jack. Man, he's probably one
Yeah.
of the best pure players in the SEC. He's like the Otani for the SEC, as I saw on Twitter.
We're coming to a point in the SEC where baseball, like you're gonna have to score at least like 7 runs every game in order to win in terms of interconference play. And not only that, I've noticed that a lot of teams, and this especially happened here, at least for Florida, where the runs were kind of dispersed over the course of 9 innings. Like you wouldn't just see one streak where they just bomb it, and then after that, it would kind of slow things down. Nah, you see ending with a couple runs, then ending with a couple more runs, maybe one with 4, bam, back to 2 or something, and it's kind of spread out. And for the casual baseball fans, this is literally their dream because now you're seeing scoring and a little more offense from the batting. And I'm not sure whether to say that this is because Florida has great batting or if
Ole Miss's
the
pitchers
Ole
are
Miss
just bad.
pitching is bad, which yeah, probably Ole Miss. I mean, they're also coming off of losing a crap ton of people, so like I could give them a little bit of credit considering they just won a championship, but there's no way that Florida's batting can be like so mid and yet they still drop 9 runs, then 12 runs.
I mean,
It's
Let me
ridiculous.
tell you
Ole
something.
Miss is built to be a postseason team just because of how young their team has been over the last 3 years,
True.
especially the
Yeah.
pitching staff.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the fact that Florida only scored 9 on them, considering what some
Yeah.
other lineups did to them last year and already this year, is kind of not that impressive.
What's
Yeah.
interesting about
But
Florida is they're very inconsistent because one game they can look like one of, if not the best teams in the nation, as their ranking says, and in the
Yeah.
next game they could just look awful. Errors
I
all
don't.
over the place, no pitching. I mean, just complete collapse, and I don't
You,
know why it's so inconsistent.
Luke. So
Yeah.
basically, you look at teams like South Carolina, LSU. You look at teams like them in Kentucky this season, and they just been like
All right,
power.
get into the Kentucky series so I can rant about Kentucky real quick.
Okay, we could go with the power. They all have power. They all have like pure hitting. But with Florida, it seems like they're either on or off. They either hit a bomb or they're going for nothing. Every single play,
Yeah.
it just seems like that. And they're really inconsistent as overall hitting. And when they face that good pitching, like some of these other teams in the SEC, I don't think they're gonna last. And that's why I think Will agrees with me that they're overrated. Now let's get into
Sure.
the Kentucky Alabama series.
Let me rant about Kentucky here real quick.
Really.
Kentucky's played Mississippi State, who is undeniably the worst team in the SEC.
Yes,
Yes,
they barely
Yes.
beat some of the worst teams in the SEC.
And then they played Alabama, who's Alabama's roster on paper is a top 3 roster in the SEC, just top to bottom, each player they have. But they
This
are
season,
so
right?
incredibly mismanaged that
Yep.
this is not an impressive win for Kentucky. Only beating Bama by 1 means that they're probably mid. And then they did actually have a good win over Alabama where they threw, like, I think Alabama put all their righties in against a mostly righty-heavy lineup. Like, that's not good managing. Like, I know Alabama has 2 good lefties in the bullpen that they just didn't throw against Kentucky until the game that Alabama won. And they won the Sunday game where they actually threw their 2 lefties against Kentucky. So if they would have thrown their 2 lefties in the 12-inning game they had on Friday, we would not be talking about Kentucky as a 5-1 team. We'd be talking about them as a 4-2 team, which they should be right now.
Well, like this is not me playing devil's advocate. This is more of a legitimate question because this is a series I didn't really get to pay much attention to. A, because of March Madness, and B, just because I felt like it kind of went under the radar for me. Do you think that this has more to do with Alabama's coaching staff just being experimental and moving around players and seeing who can do what before they just set in a lineup and know their guys? Or
No,
do you
they've
think
done.
this is just stupidity?
This is just stupidity because it's happened across multiple years.
So
This isn't
technically
like
speaking,
this isn't the first year we've seen this.
So Alabama has recruiting, but they don't have the coaching. They literally are
Yes.
about to have the next Nate Oates effect, where
Yes.
they actually I take that back because I don't think Nate Oates is the most great coach. He just is good enough to use the talent, but still, yeah.
He's
I
Mike White. There's your better comparison. Can bring
actually,
in
yeah,
talent but can't use it.
All right,
that's
guys.
fair.
I think we spent enough time on this. Let's go into the series of the week. And let's start off with the first series this week: Auburn at Florida. I'm pretty sure we all know who's going to win this. Florida sweep.
Oh, whoa!
I mean,
I think Auburn gets a couple more players back. They got a couple more players back versus Georgia. I have Auburn winning 2-1.
You are smoking something.
since I know Florida's inconsistent, but the thing is they're at home, so I'm not saying that they're going to sweep, but they are going to win the series 2-1. Auburn will steal a game. As Jackson said, they're bringing some people back, and Auburn isn't terrible, so
Auburn will definitely win Friday because they got their ace back.
I'm gonna go into the worst games first, and then I'm gonna build on the
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. After that, yeah, we all agreed on Auburn versus Florida. How Florida's gonna sweep, right? Will?
Nope.
Okay. Whatever you say. Let's go into Georgia at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is gonna win 2 out of 3 or sweep. Vanderbilt's.
It'll be 2-1.
But we have to realize Vanderbilt is still.
Vanderbilt's going to throw their midweek starter on Sunday.
But they're 6-0 already. They've been a powerful electric offense. I think they're going to go 9-0 here.
They're going to throw their midweek starter on Sunday, and Georgia's lineup is going to feast off of them, and they'll win one game.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure they play a Power 5 team midweek.
I could see it happening, but I'm leaning more towards Jackson strictly because, I mean, this could be recency bias, but seeing Vanderbilt's batting is just ridiculous.
Enrique Bradfield and then whoever Enrique Bradfield and then whoever they have at second base, I always forget his name, are probably, other than Dylan Cruz, the two best hitters in the SEC.
Nah, Enrique is my third. You have
okay, you're a South Carolina fan. You're biased. What's his name?
How is Ethan Petrie not? He's hitting 500 in the SEC.
Yeah, he's also gone against Missouri's pitching staff and Georgia's pitching staff.
And it's SEC play.
They both suck at pitching.
And Dylan Cruz is dominating relief pitchers. But let's go against Arkansas. Let's go Arkansas versus Alabama. Arkansas
sweep.
Arkansas gonna win 2-1. I think Arkansas is gonna win 2-1. I can't pick sweep every series. I think Arkansas is gonna struggle.
Well, I haven't picked the sweep yet, so
Arkansas.
I've picked two of the 3 games I've said sweep. Arkansas sweeps here. I mean,
I don't think Arkansas.
Alabama.
Only because
Alabama's pitching staff my bad. Coaching staff is not good.
If they just couldn't even remotely handle Kentucky at home, they're now about to play arguably the second best team in the SEC. I say arguably because Vanderbilt is higher.
Arkansas is the 5th best team in the SEC for me.
I don't know.
They are not good.
I think you told me to stop smoking. I think
your Sunday relief pitching is not good, man.
At max, they're 3.
They are not. Let me tell you something. They don't have pitchers to last, and they don't have the relief pitchers to last.
They have 4 good relief pitchers.
The only 2 teams I could
legitimately Friday and Saturday.
The only 2 teams I could legitimately put in front of them are Vanderbilt
and LSU. South Carolina is not better than Arkansas.
South Carolina.
This is your bias.
LSU.
This is your bias.
Vanderbilt. Florida, Kentucky,
and
then Arkansas.
The cock strikes again.
Jackson, start taking your pills.
I'm joking. I have LSU over South Carolina. LSU's won. South
Carolina. Start taking your pills.
Now let's go into South Carolina at Mississippi State. Sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say that State can take a game because I don't want to pick sweep every time, but yeah, it's going to be a sweep.
Actually, I think State gets someone Will Sanders pitches.
Will Sanders is so awful, but State's lost 17 straight, man.
You know what? Screw it. I want to do the thing where I go against Jackson and be the new Will for baseball. So
hey,
Mississippi State's taking a game. It's
If
gonna be
you
2
check
to 1.
Yeah,
my
they're taking a
article,
game. They're
if you
definitely
check
taking
my
a game.
article on South Carolina baseball, it's almost perfect right now.
2 to 1.
2-1.
But Ole Miss versus Texas A&M. This is one of the more underrated series of the week. They're both 1-5, so
Give me
Texas
Ole Miss 2
A&M's
to 1.
better
I
though.
got Ole
Texas
Miss.
A&M has just looked like a better team.
Ole Miss 2 to
What?
1.
You didn't you
Oh,
just say earlier? Yeah, I think got Ole Miss 2-1 too. You said earlier, Will yourself. A&M's look more inconsistent than Georgia. As
yeah,
you're,
but Ole Miss has also looked pretty inconsistent.
I don't care if it's at Texas
That's
A&M.
true.
Ole Miss is gonna beat.
It's also at Texas A&M.
It's gonna be a good
Ole Miss is
series
gonna win.
regardless. Like these are gonna be some pretty close
I actually
games.
don't know who to pick in this series, if I'm being
That's why
honest.
I'm like debating here. You know what? For
I'm
the
going
first
with Ole
time
Miss
ever in
because they have
V2 history,
more relief.
for the first time ever in V2 history, I'm about to turn my camera on this. I'm gonna spin a fucking wheel to see who I'm picking for this. Okay.
All right, Jackson, who are you picking?
I got Ole Miss in 2-1.
Regardless, I'm taking it 2 to 1.
All right,
but
I'm gonna go. Jackson's taking Ole Miss, so I'm gonna go Texas A&M 2-1.
okay, here we go. Let me just
You should have
put.
just flipped a coin.
Nah, I gotta spin the wheel. Okay, here we go. Let's see what we get.
Come on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ole Miss. We're taking
Yeah.
Oh.
2 to
Ole Miss
1.
2-1. All right, let's go into the series. Probably
All right.
the second best series of the week. Missouri at Kentucky. Now,
Missouri
this
wins
is a
by a
lineup
sweep.
of yeah.
I'm not gonna say
Uh,
sweep, but I'll say Missouri wins the series. Yeah,
It's
I agree with that.
at Kentucky, and Kentucky has more relief pitchers.
Kentucky doesn't show out in baseball games, or well, they do in the SEC tournament, but like at home especially against teams where it's not like just this
Well, they
crazy
show out
comp.
in the SEC tournament in baseball because there's a weird group of Kentucky fans that are here in Birmingham.
Yeah, from both my experiences living in Birmingham for a long time, and I guess now will because in college, I could definitely say there are a few teams that like aren't close to Hoover, and yet they just pack the Met, and Kentucky's one of them. It's weird.
Yeah, I have a friend who goes to college here with me. I'm not gonna say which college, but I have like 4 friends that are Kentucky fans, and one of them he goes to like the SEC tournament every year.
Good stuff.
Dang. All right, so you guys got Missouri, I got Kentucky. Let's go into the game, the series of the week. LSU at home versus Tennessee. And I know, Kentucky and Missouri could have been a better series than this. A&M, Ole Miss, but these are against two ranked top 10 teams. Tennessee has the pitching to keep up with LSU.
Mm.
They have the depth. That's something that Arkansas didn't have. They have the pitching depth. But the issue is, can they go against Skynes and win? I don't think so. They're gonna lose this series 2-1, but I think this will be closer than the Arkansas series, only because Arkansas doesn't have depth at pitching.
Will Tennessee be able to win the Sunday game? Will they be able to win the Sunday game though?
I think they're gonna win the Saturday game. I just
Here's the
have
thing.
them losing the Sunday.
Call me Jason because I like underdogs. I'm taking the balls 2-1, baby. We gotta have a Jason in here. We have to. Like,
all right. If that's the case,
all
right. Listen,
Wait a
if that's the
second.
case, I'll speak on one game or one series. How about that? And
Shocker.
no, Luke, Jason would not have picked that because Jason's not going to pick that. Jason's taking LSU 2-1 with a possible 3-0 because Tennessee proceeds and loves to do this at all times. Whenever it is a big series in any sport, or rather against some shitty team, they're gonna find a way to choke and shit the bed. So LSU 2-1 or a sweep, plain and simple.
I'm gonna go with Jason. LSU 2-1. LSU will lose the Sunday game.
I think LSU wins the rubber match, but I think Tennessee's gonna take game 2.
Bring it on. We love the competition.
All right, we're finally done. Do you want me to do the sign off, Jason, or do you want to do it?
I'll actually do it because I got to talk about some sponsorships. All right. I know y'all haven't heard from us since last Monday. We had an issue with last week's baseball episode, considering it didn't record any audio. That's our bad. I got a new mic, and apparently it messed a lot of stuff up. But let's go ahead and get into the sponsors. Make sure you use the code V2Sports for 10% off at Dubby. It's perfect not a pregame. Please don't use this as pregame for the love of Christ. All right. It's a perfect pre-workout or energy drink, whatever you want to do. It's supposed to be like G Fuel, but healthier. And make sure you use code V2Sports at checkout on SeatGeek for 10 or 20% off your first purchase. You have to use a new account. I don't know how many times I got to stress this to you. New account. I've gotten plenty of DMs ever since we got the sponsorship. It's like, SeatGeek says it doesn't work. And I'm like, I've told you every damn episode what you need to do. Stop being lazy and stupid. Well, guess what? Use a new account. All right. And for premier clothing for the SEC schools. All right. I understand they only have 5 schools right now. We're working on getting that fixed. Make sure you go to Collegiate Traditions and use code V2Sports for 10% off. Another one, if you're not a fan of an SEC school and you just like listening because you listen to us to go to sleep because we're boring, trust me, it still gets me views. I don't care. Do whatever you must. But check out Home Field Apparel. Use code V2. Well, don't even use a code. Use the link in our bio because they still haven't sent us a code yet. For 10% off any purchase for any school. Yes, their stuff's a little pricey, but you get what you pay for. It's pretty good looking stuff. And finally, a huge shout out to one of our largest sponsors out there. I'm just playing, they ain't large, but this is a huge one. From V2 Sports to anybody that supports or works for Tailgate State Co., whatever the hell they want to be called, we would like to offer you an extremely huge, completely disrespectful fuck you. And make sure you use code D's Nuts when you're swallowing, and please never buy from them again. Thank you, and as always, good morning, good afternoon, and good night from the V2 crew. Fuck Tailgate State Co.